Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Patch 11.15 is releasing by the time you're watching this video in just a handful of days. And on this channel, we've been pretty diligent in covering just about everything this update has to offer, as it's primarily going to be a patch focused on adding more content for solo players, adding even more collectibles for players to obtain, as well as a bunch of catch-ups for new alts as well as returning players. However, this update, besides the big stuff like the Nightfall scenario, the return of Visions and Corruptions, the Dastardly Duos fun event is going to be made available later down the line, there are also a lot of other smaller features that many players haven't heard about because they're either hidden or just are not really spotlighted nearly as often. So I wanted to take today's video to focus in on some of the hidden or lesser known features that are coming out with the patch 11.15 in just a handful of days. As always, if you guys want to see more regular updates for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So one of the lesser known features coming out for the 11.15 update is going to actually be specific for marksmanship hunters. With the Marksmanship Hunter rework for Season 2, they're now petless. Like, technically you can still spec into having a pet that can accompany you within outdoor content, but for the most part, they're really leaning into this whole lone hunter mentality, but you're not ever really alone. You still do have a pet that isn't controllable, but it does help you in combat. A spotting eagle that gives you utility of the other hunter specs, so you're not missing out on any key aspects. It gives you ability to stun, ability to press defenses on yourself, and there's even animations that play out with this eagle, like when you bloodlust, you can actually see this eagle swoop in above the character and then lust everybody around you. It's an obvious eagle model. When you go for, let's say, a defensive such as a Roar Sacrifice, the eagle also swoops above your head to apply a buff on you. And when you go for a stun with intimidation, the eagle also swoops above the targets and stuns them. So they're actually adding a glyph where you can trade out this eagle for another pet completely. So you're not getting a pet, you're just really changing the visual of which pet gets to join you. And it's called the Glyph of the Strix, which so far on PTR, no one's been able to find it. But if anything, it's probably like the glyphs like we had for Outlaw Rogues back in like 1107. And this is likely the similar story we're seeing here. However, the Glyph of the Strix, we do know that it changes out the spotting eagle with the spotting owl. So instead of having like an eagle swoop in to buff all of your allies with bloodlust or to peck at the targets to stun them, you can have an owl instead. So this is a lot more thematic and perfect if, let's say, you play a night elf like a marksmanship sentinel hunter, where you already get to invoke that imagery of the eagle with the sentinel playstyle and have this eagle floating above the sky, conjuring a lunar storm above your target. You can now have this eagle that swoops in for you to do all of your combat-based abilities instead of the eagle, which I think is a nice little thematic touch, and I'm a big fan of these kind of visual adjustments. Also, do you know that 11.15 you'll have another chance to get yourself a portable mailbox from the new Flames Radiance faction? Specifically, you'll get access to the Radiant Lynx whistle toy that allows you to conjure a courier lynx that looks something like Swiftpaw that will actually let you get access to your mailbox for 10 minutes. There are a number of toys in the game that already do that. However, unless you're hanging out in Legion Dalaran for Katie's Stamp Whistle, there's a good chance, unless you're checking every single mailbox, that you haven't done that questline, which takes a little bit of time. And if you're currently not playing through Dragonflight expansion, you probably don't have the Ahuna's Perch and you don't have the renown necessary to be able to purchase it immediately. So if you never played in Legion or never played through Dragonflight and maybe just started in the War Within expansion, unless you get yourself the Brutal mount, you don't actually have too many other ways outside of maybe engineering to get access to a mailbox immediately outside of major cities. But with a new faction of Flame Radiance, you'll get yourself another access and yet another toy that actually has useful utility, summoning up little links that delivers you mail for you and gives you access to a mailbox for a few minutes, which is arguably one of the most useful utilities toys have done. Most toys are just for fun, just to change your appearance of your character or let you play around with certain doodads, but this one is actually kind of useful, especially if you bought a couple of things in the auction house but forgot to pick them up on your way to the next dungeon. Also, in patch 11.15, you'll be able to get access to 3 unique appearances for a legendary cloak that was obtainable during the expansion of Battle for Azeroth. Long story short, Rathian has an obsession with cloaks, from Pandaria to BFA and even in Dragonflight. And during BFA, there was this awesome legendary cloak that came in 3 appearances that you had to upgrade though over a period of time, which took a lot of grinding back in BFA, and having any player playing currently going back to BFA to grind it out just Doesn't sound like a lot of fun, but this cloak and its appearance are making a return through the new visions available in 11.1.5, and you'll be able to purchase them fairly easily from the main vendor of Tori. You'll actually be able to purchase these cloaks directly for only a handful of displays, corrupted mementos, and like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 is actually very little in comparison. Which means 11.1.5 offers a new way for you to be able to obtain one of the cooler cosmetics from that expansion, but this time around is going to be a hell of a lot more convenient. Also, the class of warrior is getting a brand new animation for the Warbreaker ability. Initially, Blizzard did a bunch of ability and visual changes in patch 11.1, and Warbreaker, while it was different, it just didn't quite satisfy warrior players nearly as well. And the problem is that they're going to be making changes to this animation, which is getting brought in for 11.1.5. The new Warbreaker animation removes any of these ghostly axes and instead just allows you to focus in on you stomping the ground to break enemies' armor in an AoE fashion with a powerful, massive strike, which has been received generally a little bit better than the ghostly axes animation that is available over on the live realms. Next, when it comes to mounts, I think the Deathcycle is definitely one of the more detailed and definitely one of the most unique mounts they've added in the game ever. And so far we've had two versions of it, one through promotion, one through a big secret achievement through in-game content, especially during the anniversary, though technically still earnable right now, though a third version of this mount was also data mined a while ago, a purple version that will be made available as part of 11.1.5, though a little bit later down the line, and that is the Voidfire Deathcycle, the purple variation which will be made available through Horrific Visions. Now, this mount is unique and kind of like a secretive mount, sorta. It does need to be built up, and the materials needed in order to build this bike from scratch do take a little bit of time for you to obtain. But first you gotta do enough visions, and I think at a high enough difficulty until the mount spawns. I'm not sure exactly what triggered it, but during one of my runs within Visions, at some point the Deathcycle just randomly appeared, and on top of it was riding an ethereal voidy enemy that I had to slay, which gave me access to be able to start unlocking parts to the Deathcycle. And when you actually talk to the Deathcycle itself and click on it, you can look at all the different parts, and it even has notes on all these different parts that gives you ideas as to where you might be able to unlock some of these. Now, some of these parts can be bought on the auction house. Some of them can be bought from very specific vendors way out in the open world in all these different places. So the bike is in a way, I guess, kind of secretive, but I'm pretty sure once we get into Visions, players will start unlocking it fairly quickly. It doesn't seem like it's going to be the hardest way to obtain it. You just need to get the parts from Vision runs, but also other pieces from the overworld, combine it together to form the different parts of the vehicle, from the engine, exhaust, handlebars, the battery housing, the seat, as well as the wheels. But this essentially ends up being the third Deathcycle that we were able to data mine a while ago, so you can finally complete your Deathcycle collection. It is also a unique mount that you actually have to build from within Visions, but also parts found in the overworld, which makes it one of the more interesting ways for you to be able to acquire this mount. I guess some people would call it secretive, but I definitely haven't seen too much discussed regarding the Deathcycle in general. Now, another feature that's actually kind of massive, though not as many people talk about it, is the fact that Shadowlands reputations are being made Warbound in 11.1.5. Normally, especially some of the newer expansion reputations outside of Dragonflight, a lot of them are still character specific, though Blizzard is working on these reputations backwards, trying to convert them from class specific or player specific or character specific to warband specific, combining all those reputations of multiple characters to your warband instead, which is massive, especially for those of you looking to get a variety of unique rewards that many of these expansions factions have to offer, and Shadowlands is one of the few expansions added to that roster of warband reputations, from the Ascended, the Undying Army, the Wild Hunt, Court of the Night, Court of the Harvesters, the Avowed, Death's Advance, Archivist Codex, the Enlightened, as well as Venari. And I've actually noticed there's a lot of players hanging out in Oribos and even in some of the Shadowlands zones. Recently, I decided to go on a very long mount journey to get myself the reins of Zoval's Soul Eater. Hell of an achievement, took a long while for me to actually obtain it, but it was definitely a journey. The one that I didn't enjoy personally, just because Shadowlands left such a bad taste in my mouth, I think is the mandatory ventures into the mob before you could even use a mount, or having to grind Torghast for legendaries and Soul Ash. I mean, that will drain anybody. Though many players that never played those expansions are actually getting to go into them now and are having a lot of fun with it, because if you take out all those mandatory time gates that it had back then, you actually do have to accept that Shadowlands had a lot of very unique customizations in terms of mogs, some of the most unique mounts in the game, so many different rewards for you to collect, so many different unique transmog pieces. Like, when you take all the grind out of Shadowlands, it actually gives players looking to get all these things for your collections so much to offer. So them combining all these reputations to make it Warbound instead of character specific is huge for so many players that are going back to this expansion to get all these rewards and loot. Which means that now you can send in your whole army of vaults into Shadowlands content, grind out all the rep incredibly quickly, and collect all those items much faster than ever before. This, however, won't work for the renown of Covenants, because those were linked to player power specifically. But at least there's enough catch-ups in the game just by playing Shadowlands content that you'll be able to max out your rep or renown with all these factions fairly quickly. Also, it seems that Undercoins, a currency from Delves, might actually be transferable in the patch 11.1.5. Specifically, the reason why I say might is because Blizzard never gave us like an official blue post or statement whether this is intended or if it's a bug. But if it is a bug, this bug has been present on PTR for now a very long time. And a lot of players wondered at the beginning, like, is this meant to be working the same way? But yeah, it looks like the coins, which were transferable at the very beginning of Season 1 of War Within, those coins were locked out from being able to be transferable for Season 2, mostly because they really increased the amount of items you can get from server-friendly Mingleton, like being able to get a guaranteed map as well as a boss spawn within a delve with the Scrambler to be able to buy a bunch of coins, but also even the rewards on the server-friendly have improved drastically for Season 2. They're a lot better, whether you're looking to go back to get some of the dirigible, Delver's dirigible mount fragments, mount parts if you've never gotten them during Season 1, or if you're trying to get cosmetics from Season 1 to add to your collection, which is really awesome, the fact that it'll let you do that, so some of the more unique cosmetics available for this season as well. Or even veteran track gear, which isn't, while not amazing, it's at least a fantastic starting point for any of your old characters, if your main has enough of these undercoins. But being able to make them transferable does allow you to pull them together a little bit more easily, does allow you, instead of having to piecemeal them, buy scramblers on one character, then another character, then another character. Now you can just pull them together, buy a bunch of scramblers, toss them on the Warbound bank, and you're good to go. It makes managing all this inventory and all these items a lot easier, and accumulate enough of them to be able to purchase a lot of these transmogs in a bulk for across multiple characters, which is always a pretty big bonus overall, and definitely a good thing to see. I still mark this as a maybe, because what if this comes out, like what if patch 11.1.5 comes out and this isn't a feature? Then I think I will have egg on my face, but it seems like this is a feature that's potentially intended as part of this update, though without Blizzard's giving us direct confirmation, we're not 100% sure, but potentially a nice bonus. The last few features are going to be a little bit more UI specific, the first one coming from the trading post. Normally when you buy items on a trading post, which I'm pretty sure I won't have access to on PTR, yeah, I don't, but when you normally get like the window for purchasing items, normally you have to buy items one by one. Though in 11.1.5, Blizzard is adding a shopping cart to your purchases, so you can kind of put all the items you're interested in the shopping cart and then buy them once in bulk. This gives you a better idea of like just how much tokens you're about to spend for the month of trading post. And it just allows you to kind of have an easier time itemizing all of these items within the trading post window screen, which I think is a nice little bonus and just a decent little UI improvement. Another feature that is being added as part of 11.1.5 is actually an accessibility feature where you can change the color of items' rarity. Though, even though it's mostly there for accessibility, I'm sure some players will have fun messing around with it either way. You can find it in accessibility and color schemes, and you can actually change the colors for all of the different items within your inventory. So if, let's say, you're looking at all these items, now Splinter Stone looks like it's legendary, the PvP pants that are normally greens are red, and then you have the purple that actually is about the same. That didn't change at all. Oh, there we go. Now, yeah, now the purples are now green, which is a little bit more confusing, but you can see that it also changes like the border of these items in your bags as well. with the rarities. I imagine you could probably do certain things, like if you wanted to remove trash out of your bags, you could probably just make it red if you wanted to, just so it highlights a little bit easier within your inventory so you can remove it. But it is something that if you really wanted to really mix up the rarity and the quality of all of your items, you could if you wanted to. And even if you do end up messing up your colors, you could always set it with a default and go for these settings to turn all the colors back to how they were, just so you can remove all of that random confusion. Definitely a unique and very niche feature, though it is one that not a lot of players really talk about. But with that, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching and hope you guys did enjoy this update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, as always, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community for any of the upcoming big changes regarding patch 11.15, because I really would not be surprised if that had a whole new set of class tunings as the build goes live. Also, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.